Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for coming out. Just a brief recap on a Missouri game. Spoke about it in the post-game press conference. I think, first of all, getting off to a fast start is critical in every game, but especially on the road. You know, we had great field position, and we were never able to do anything with that field position. I thought that really kind of set the temperament of the game. The next thing, which I also briefly spoke about, is it's a line of scrimmage game. And I thought we were dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage. It is what it is. That will not be tolerated here at Tennessee. And I thought that, any time a team can come in and rush the football against you for over 300 yards, and, we had less than 100 yards rushing, makes it extremely difficult. I said the formula for this team to win is pretty simple. We have to overachieve. We can't beat ourselves. We're not going to be, talent-wise, the best team we play, but that doesn't make us the best team. The best teams for that given day win, not just best individuals athletically or individually. And so we have to be a team that overachieves, plays disciplined football, and we weren't able to do that. Inordinate amount of penalties, which, again, is unacceptable. We spend too much time in practice with a full officiating crew. We're talking about the discipline that it takes to win football games. And, we've done a really good job at most stages of the season. And that wasn't us Saturday night. Everything's based on, first of all, how you play, how you compete, how you strain, how you play for 63, which we talk about in our program. It's how you're able to play with the discipline that it takes to play winning football, and our players understanding that. And that's what we went back and really studied, that is how we played the game, how we competed, the fundamentals, the fine details. And that's something that we'll continue to stress, just like we do each and every week. I think right now we're dealing with the realities of building a football program, and we're dealing with the realities of a football season, and there's natural adversities that the game and the process presents itself. And that's what we're dealing with right now, whether it's injuries and being on your third quarterback, whether it's, the schedule that we have, the nicks, the bruises, the mental grind that it takes, the lack of depth, whatever it is. Those are natural adversities that occur throughout the course of the season. And everything is going to be based on how we finish. Again, we put ourselves in position to be playing meaningful games. Every game is meaningful from here on out. And so everything is going to be defined on how we finish. Another great opponent, another talented football team coming in here, up-tempo, team with a mentality to run the football. And so, again, great challenge. But I will tell you this, it's great to be home and play in front of our crowd this week. So I'll answer any questions you may have.
How much do you think Auburn's offense has some similarities to Missouri or any other offenses you think?
Well, I think there are some similarities, but there's some marked differences as well. And I think it's the different personnel groupings that they get in with. They're not, again, I say it is the missed term used in college football is the spread offense. Everyone has a different definition of what the spread offense is. It's kind of the evolution of the West Coast offense back in the day. Everyone spoke about it, but, what's a spread offense? Is it shotgun? Is it no huddle? Is it up-tempo? Is it 10 personnel with 4 and 5 wideouts on the field? What is it? And so where they challenge is they're able to get multiple personnel groupings, and they play with a high level of physicality. And then, the dimension that Nick Marshall brings to their offense, he's a dynamic football player. And he can run it, he can pass it, and then Jeremy Johnson does a great job for them as well. So, they cause you a lot of matchup problems.
Butch, where are you? Where do you think your team is? You're about body language, and you see them eye to eye. Talk about injuries, physical beat up, emotionally beat down, wear and tear of the season. Are you concerned your team's out of gas?
I'm always concerned, but we have great character in our football program, and I'm going to appeal to their competitive character. Pride and heart matter. And, I met with our players, staff yesterday, and everyone's obviously disappointed, and they should be. We didn't play well. And that's all of us. It's everyone has to be accountable for their self-determination. Everyone's accountable for their preparation and how they perform. We talk about pride and performance all the time. It starts with the coaches. It starts with everyone in our football organization and our football family. And I know everyone was extremely disappointed, but not discouraged. And we're playing for a lot. And I like the way our kids, the feedback that I've received from them. And we'll come back today and we'll be ready to go. There's no reason to be. We're fighting for a bowl game. We get an opportunity to play in 102-455 in Neyland Stadium. It's an honor and a privilege to play at Tennessee. So that should not be an issue. And but you always talk about that with your teams.
Did you feel like you guys did not have the passion? You talked about it after Alabama. Your team
Right.
played the passion. Did you felt like they had it to start the game with Missouri, and it just because of the way the game went away from them? Did you feel like you're
I did.
passionate?
We had a great week of preparation. I thought we were emotionally ready to play. But so much of it is creating, your own opportunities and your own momentum. We were never able to do that. We drop a touchdown pass. That flips the game. That flips the momentum. We didn't have very many explosive plays, generating 3 and outs. We did a great job to start the game, and it's 7-0, with about 12 minutes, 11 minutes to go in the second quarter. So, it's being able to sustain, I thought, the overall focus, and, we didn't have anyone step up and take hold of the football game. And that's what you have to do. And these are all learning experiences. When you look at all the experiences that we've had to this point of time, both positive and both negative, they should really enforce what we're building here. The mentality that it takes to play week in and week out, the toughness that's required, the team chemistry, the competitive character, the effort, the energy, the passion, which you just spoke about, and the discipline to do the little things correctly. And I think what separates teams, what separates people, is the willingness to do the things that nobody else wants to do. Everyone can do them, but nobody else wants to do them. Those are the small details. Those are the little things. And, like I said, we're going through the realities of building a football program. Really teaching our players the standard, the expectations. So that's not going to be a crutch. We want passionate people who expect and deserve to win week in and week out. And I know we have a great group of kids, and they'll be ready to go.
What you talked about Saturday night being kind of a learning experience for Josh in his first start. What do you think he took from it, and where do you think he kind of now goes from there?
Well, I think you take a lot of things from it. And as you know how cerebral he is, just like we as coaches, he dissects every single play. And some really good experiences and some experiences that we need to correct and move forward and not make them twice, which he will. But, there's one where, we're in the 1-minute drill, run out of bounds and stop the clock. And, there comes a point in time where it's 2 yards more important than getting out of bounds and stopping the clock. And we turn the football over. Another one, we throw a deep ball and, the receiver's covered, throw it out of bounds. It's 1st and 10. Learn from it, play the next down, put the play on the shelf, and now we got 2nd and 10 and away we go. Those are all little things that, you can rep and practice and kind of replicate it in game-like situations. But, when they're live reps, you grow up and you learn from it. So, I think the experiences that he gained obviously should continue to move him forward.
It seemed like you guys used more 5 wide receivers than usual, and even 4 wide receivers with Johnson instead of Downs. Was that maybe using Dobbs to kind of open up the passing game, or is that just unique to Missouri and thinking you guys could have
It was a combination of a lot of things. It was trying to put the best 11 players on the field to win the football game. I think some of it is, we don't have a lot of competition, unfortunately, at some positions. And we have a standard in performance here at Tennessee, and we don't perform up to that standard. We have to find alternate ways of different personnel groupings. I think the next thing is you're exactly right, trying to play to the skill set of the quarterback. So I think there's a number of things that went into that decision and some of the different formations that you saw. And, we'll continue to evolve with Josh as our quarterback.
You've been really competitive against Georgia. You beat South Carolina, then these last 2 games come on the road. Just how much of a cumulative effect is there when you're playing a ranked team each and every week, and does that have anything to do with kind of that progression?
Well, if you deal with the realities, it is what it is. And the schedule is a schedule. We have to play it. And we expect to win every football game. Is it a grind? Yes, it's a grind. Not only mentally, but physically. And getting yourself up to play your best performance week in and week out versus the best of the best. We're going, and a lot of those have been on the road in great hostile environments. But that's not a crutch. That's not an excuse. That's life in the SEC. That's life at Tennessee. And but it does. In reality, it does take its toll. But it's a great learning process. I talked about this last week, and that's part of that process I spoke about, is we're youthful. Not only just in 24 now, freshmen playing, but youthful in the learning curve, of really what it takes. And then I think the other thing is when you play well against Georgia and you beat South Carolina, you're not sneaking up on anybody. Everybody watches those games. And that's all learning curve. And for a lot of these individuals, it's the first time being in these situations. And that's when I talk about, we're going through the realities of building a football program. I want it now. Let's make no mistake about it. I want it now. Our players want it now. Our former players, our Vol for Lifes want it now. Our fan base wants it now. Our administration wants it now. We all want it now. But I see the positives each and every day. People in our industry that really study the game see it. I see improvements each and every day. Some days larger than others, but I see improvements. And sometimes you don't see it in the win column. And as a head football coach, I have to take the emotion out of it, and I have to look at it. Are we doing the right schemes? Are we putting players, in positions to be successful? Are we getting the most? Are we extracting every ounce of value that we have in every single one of our players? And then where do we need to improve? Where are our deficiencies? We have to correct those through development and through the recruiting process. It is what it is, and we're going to do it right. And we're making great strides, but we have to put our heads down, eliminate all the clutter, and just keep getting better as a football program. And I'm as encouraged right now as I've ever been, because I see growth, I see maturation, I see attracting the best of the best student athletes who have great competitive character that want to be in the process of getting Tennessee football back. So I'm extremely encouraged. And so do we have a lot of work to do? You guys see what I see. But I'm also encouraged by where we're going.
As you talked about chemistry several times, your offensive line is the most mature part of the team, at least age-wise, and yet they don't seem to be.
Right.
Is it chemistry? Is it missed assignments? Or can you put a finger on it?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think we put a lot of pressure on them, and we should, because they played a lot of football here. But I've said it when we walked in the door, I said it after spring football, and I said it in August, and I continue to say it. We have to be more physical as a group. We talk about the power of the position. When you look at when you're building your program, most of these individuals played as true freshmen. So they're already set back 1 year in the development phase of the strength and conditioning area, the mentality. Our players are up 4 days a week at 6 a.m. doing developmental lifts. That's where a lot of your toughness, that's where a lot of your strength is born and developed, in that area. So then all of a sudden it's competition as well. And, we're going to get back to doing what we do. Full padded practice, live practices, and we're going to be a tough football team. And I know this. Those individuals understand that they didn't perform well, and I think you got to give your opponent credit as well. Also, is they're playing against some very, very talented defensive fronts. Everybody recruits. In the SEC, all the teams that are successful, they have great defensive fronts. That's what I've come to find out in a very relatively quick early. You win with a defensive front. And so they've been challenged going up against the best of the best. Sometimes it's not all them. It may be a back missing a read. It may be the quarterback not getting us in the proper play. It may be where the play's blocked for 4 yards and we get 4 yards and we need to have the ability to make somebody miss at the second level. It may be a tight end. It may be a wide receiver on the perimeter. So, everyone wants to point towards the offensive line, but it's the same thing. It's 11 players. So I think it's a combination. I think it's being in predictable down and distances, when you don't win first down efficiency. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things that go hand in hand, but they're great competitive young men. They understand what they need to do to get better, and they're hungry. They were all in my office on Sunday, and they understand, they know, and so they'll continue to get better, and we still have a lot of football left to be played.
There's been a couple of drops now for Josh Smith. What's where's his head at, and what's he thinking right now?
Well, I think he just has to continue to progress, and I think he's going through the maturation phase of a true freshman. And, Josh needs to take his practice to the games. Josh, I'll tell you right now, has the best hands on our football team. He's extremely competitive. He brings it every day in practice. He's extremely difficult and hard on himself, which we want. That's a mark of a great competitor. Now it's taken the practice field to the game field, and he's a young man with a tremendous amount of upside, and he'll be fine. It goes through those things where, he's trying to make a play and he doesn't catch the ball with his eyes. He tries to run before he catches the football. And unfortunately, those are all growing pains that we're going through with all of our players, and not just Josh, but a lot of the true freshmen. It just so happened his mistake was magnified because, it was in the open field and it was a touchdown. But I believe in Josh Smith. He's going to be fine.
You talk about the passion and momentum to play with. Are there certain guys that you challenge, maybe certain seniors that you say, I need to see this from you, everyone needs to see this from you?
Absolutely. And there's some individuals, you treat everyone in your football program fairly, but every individual reacts to different things. So, one way you motivate one young man may not be the same motivation for the other individual. So you have to find ways to get them to perform at their optimum levels. And so you're right, there's some individuals I can get after, I can challenge them and they'll respond. There's other individuals, there's a different way of challenging. But especially with the guys up front, I challenge them because we have high expectations for them. And like I said, the offensive and defensive lines of any program is really the poster child for your toughness in your football program.
What you said going back to full padded practice, full contact and all that, that's something Saturday night you referenced as a bit of a concern because of the lack of depth overall. Do you just feel like you have to do it at this point moving forward, or is it because there's an open date next week, or will it be the standard the rest?
It's the standard, and that's the way we're going to play football here. We're going to be a physically tough-minded football team in everything that we do. We call it Tennessee Tough, and it's not just a fancy slogan. And we have to get much tougher as a football team. And I'm not going to tolerate it as a head football coach, not the caretaker of Tennessee football. Tennessee football is not going to be soft. And as we know, building toughness is a process. It just doesn't happen overnight. It's a cumulative effect that occurs in your winter's strength and conditioning program, to spring football, to August camp, to the season, and you have to live it. And, been through this journey before with developing toughness. And it takes some while. But the great thing is our players, with meeting with them, they've embraced it. And what do they say? To learn how to swim, you got to get in the pool. And we got to get in the pool.
Martin Lane garnered more carries the way he's played the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you'll see his role continue to increase. Now he's back to 100% health-wise. The thing we need from him is burst at the second level, and really finishing runs. The one run on our sideline he tried to finish, but you'll see his workload start to increase a little bit this week.
Butch, usually teams are better at home than on the road, but do you see an inordinate difference between your team at home versus the road?
I just know that we're going through a process of what it takes to play winning football on the road, and, Jimmy and I were talking in the car over here. I believe every road opponent that we've played have been a top 20 opponent, and every road opponent that we have played have been ranked in the top 10 at some point or some stage of the season in great venues. And there's a toughness, there's a mentality that goes into it. I talk about creating your own momentum, your own opportunities when you play on the road. Just like playing Auburn at home this week, we're going to have to create opportunities. So I think it's a mindset of going on the road, and I think there's a lot that goes into it. And it takes a mature football team, mentally and physically, to go on the road and win football games.
You said you had to go through this before and trying to instill toughness. Can you talk about an experience previous to this?
Absolutely. I'll give you the greatest example, two of the greatest examples. We were blessed and fortunate my last year at Cincinnati to have basically a first-round draft choice at defensive tackle and a third-round draft choice at defensive tackle. Derek Wolfe and John Hughes, and both start. One starts for the Cleveland Browns, and one is a good friend of Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos. And their junior years, I think they'd chuckle if they heard me saying it, but if one was to my left and one was to my right, they'd tap me and chuckle and say they were both soft mentally. And we challenged them, and the way they developed in a year's time is probably the most development I've ever seen in two individuals. And Derek Wolfe is tough, he's physical, he's tough-minded. And John Hughes is a young man we spoke about a couple weeks ago who wasn't even being considered for the National Football League. And his senior year, he made a decision, mentally and physically. And we challenged him. And Steve Stripling does a great job. And, again, that's something that just doesn't happen overnight. You have to live that each and every day. You have to live toughness every day in your football program. And you just can't talk about it. You got to be about it. It's got to stem in practice. It's got to stem with all the different things that we talk about. And a lot of it is strength, and the strength and conditioning. Some is will, some is technique. Some is being in great shape. You can't play physical if you're out of shape. And a lot of it is the way you use your hands. Some of it is body position. Some of it is the way you run your feet. So there's a lot that goes into the definition of being tough.
How did you feel like Dobbs did leading on the zone reads, his decision-making there? And were any of those predetermined calls?
None of them were predetermined calls. And, you'll see some different quarterback runs slowly be implemented into our offense, But I thought there were still a couple times we left some yardage out there where he could have pulled the football. But I thought for the most part, he did a very, very good job from that aspect.
How much will he benefit the next 3 weeks from having thrown it 42 times in his first start?
I think a lot, and I think that shows confidence in him, confidence in the players around him. But I do, he just didn't go into a game against a great opponent and hand the football off. We asked him to throw play action, sprint out, every type of route combination you could think of, all kinds of depths from deep to intermediate to short to control passing game to quick game. So we've asked him, and it's just the overall level of consistency. We talked about starting the game off fast. We have 4th and 4, at the 38, 37-yard line. And, we have a completion play for a first down, and, he overthrows it. Why? Because he overstrides in the pocket. And those are all things that he'll continue develop and get better. On another note, for everyone, is Nate Peterman will practice, and he'll be full go this week. So he's done an exceptional job. Jason McVay, our entire training staff, has done a tremendous job. And so he'll be full go. I think the other individual I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about is, again, Michael Pilardi, and the job that Jason and his training staff did as well in terms of we didn't think Mike was going to be able to kick Saturday. And, you talk about the stress and the life of a head football coach and coaches. He comes to practice on Thursday with major back spasms, and he couldn't even walk. And Friday, it was touch and go. And then Saturday, he has one of his best performances of the year. And, we talk about consistency and performance. And, when you talked about the seniors, Brett, and you talked about all the stuff of this football team, and when I met with them, I used the greatest illustration. I can sit here and tell you John Hughes illustrations and Derek Wolf stories, but let's talk about our players. Michael Pilardi. Here's an individual, for whatever occurred in the past. And he's the same individual physically. Gotten stronger, but mentally, he's completely different. When I looked at them, I said, tell me the difference in Michael Pilardi in 1 year's time, And, on his field goal attempt, I walked over to him and I said, what are you thinking range-wise? Tell me where you need to get to. He goes, Coach, I can make it from there. And through experience, I know anytime you ask a kicker, they're going to tell you he can make it. And I'm like, no, talk to me. Where do we need to get to? He says, Coach, I got you. And then, he had the one poor punt, and then he has a great punt, and J.R. Carr does a tremendous job at downing the ball on the 2-inch line. And he comes up to me, he says, I got your back. That was for that missed punt, the previous snap. And he's playing with a lot of confidence and belief right now. And that's a great illustration for every player in our football program, that development process. That's part of, when I talk about we want it now, that's part of the evolution of our football program, from the APR to academics. You want to know why Alton Howard's playing well? Alton Howard's doing well at school. Alton Howard is one of the first individuals in the building. He's early in meetings. He's asking questions. He's leading. He has accountability, not only himself, but he's holding now the other wide receivers accountable. That's growth. That didn't happen in August. That didn't happen in September. That started to formulate in October. Those are all great stories that nobody else sees because we see it every day.
Tiny played Summit.
Go ahead.
Tiny played Summit right tackle. Talk about why he did that, and will you continue to do that going forward?
We'll continue to move him around, but for that particular game, that was a short yardage plan, and really that was an unbalanced set. So, we had him and Jawan on the same side. And so those are just different game plan scenarios, in our goal line and short yardage packages. Next week you may be sitting in there and he may play fullback. Heck, I don't know, maybe he'll be in the gun doing the Volcat package. I don't know, so we'll see.
Would you consider Nate Peterman the number 2 quarterback now?
It's all based on preparation. I think Riley's done a tremendous job, and, it's hard for Riley. He's a competitive young man, and he wants to be out there, and only one quarterback can play right now. But, just like we speak about every week, is whatever individuals have the best week of practice, they'll put them in positions to play in the game.
Coach, you're talking about confidence in the growth of the program. Is Auburn sort of an example? And when Nick Marshall came and developed,
Yeah.
they're a different team than the beginning.
Different team. They have great team speed. They play with a high level of physicality. They have great wideouts, defensively, tremendous effort to get to the football, and they're tough and they're physical. And Nick Marshall brings a whole nother element, to their football program, but so does Jeremy as well. So, and they have a ton of confidence. And they're a top 10 football team, and very deservingly so.
Which I know you have to be careful when talking about recruiting, that you've been blown out each of your last 2 games and picked up key commitments on the heels of that. What do you think it says about the program, or what do you attribute that to?
Well, I think first of all, people around the country feel it and they see what's going on. And like I said, sometimes, the results aren't measured on the field, but people see what's going on here. They can feel the energy. They can feel the vision, and it's Tennessee. We're a national brand, and we have a great product to sell. And better yet, we have great people here. We have a passionate fan base, I'm all in. It's the best place in the country. I firmly believe it. And I've been around now all over the country. And there's only one Tennessee. And so it's an opportunity to build something. It's an opportunity to be a part of something extremely special. And it's going to mean more when we get back to being the Tennessee standard of football that we all come to expect. And it's work in progress. And we have 3 games left. And we're playing for a lot right now in our program. And, again, we have to go back to the fundamental aspect that I talked about in August when I sat up here before you. Focus on the process, and the results will come. What does it really take to play winning football? Developing our football program, minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour, week by week, month by month. And I know you guys get sick and tired of hearing me say that, but really, that's the only way you get it. And, you know, you have to keep things in perspective. I know this love is conditional, okay? And praise and blame, it's all the same. You just got to put your head down, and you got to keep plugging. And I had a good friend of mine, a former boss, who said, you always find out who's really in when you win. Everybody text messages you. But when you lose, you really find out who your true friends are. And your text messages are about cut in half. So on a positive, you don't have to respond to as many, but I'd rather be responding to them.
You talked about the toughness, but specifically the run defense after what happened Saturday and going in and facing the tough rushing offense in conference.
We better get tough. We better get more physical in a hurry. The thing that we didn't do a very good job of is getting off blocks. We call that the junction point. You know, there was a number of times where our 3 technique got led. And anytime the 3 technique gets led, you're in trouble. And everything about playing great defense and great run defense is gap integrity. You know, when everyone being responsible for a gap and holding your assignment. You know, it's our linebackers taking their run pass read off the EOL and man on the line. You know, and there's a couple times where we've done it over and over again, and the tackle's blocking down and our linebacker's taking a pass drop. You know, and those are the small details. You know, we've done it over and over again, and they can come to the sideline and tell you. But again, football's a game of quick second decisions. Football is a game that's played off of instincts and trusting what you see with your eyes and your eye discipline. You know, and those are the things that we have to get corrected, is getting off blocks, maintaining our gaps. You know, not being a gap short because you let a guard reach as a 3 technique or the center reach in our 1 technique. That's inexcusable. You know, and that has to do with your hand violence, your pad level, and your overall strain to get to your gap. And we better get it corrected in a hurry, because I think they threw 8 passes last week, you know, and they have a mentality to run the football. But the thing about Auburn is they can beat you with quick screens, they can beat you with deep balls, they can beat you with quarterback runs. If they decide to line up and run power offense at you, they can beat you. And like I said, they're a good physical football team.